So right now we have the profile drawn out on this. I have my spots here that have to be removed from this. I'm going to start by removing the back 82-degree angle piece there. I'm going to do that on the bandsaw. Whenever we use the bandsaw, we always leave our line. The bandsaw is never the end-all cut that we're making because it doesn't make a nice enough cut to have it be the end-all. It's never square enough, it's never smooth enough. So we want to go ahead and leave this line on the back edge here and make the cut, okay? When we do that, it's going to be difficult to start the cut with this, however. So let's walk over to the bandsaw. Remember that in addition to being a safety issue, this guard is also the blocks that keep this thing from turning. So I saw that this one block is loose here. I want to get an Allen wrench. I want to tighten that up to begin with. That's going to keep our blade from rotating inside those guides, and it's going to help us track a straight line on this. So I'm going to get an Allen wrench real quick, and I'm going to tighten that up. So I want my guide to be just off about a thick paper's worth away from that and both tight, and that's going to keep the blade from rotating as I cut. Now what makes this difficult, particularly the way that I've laid it out, if I laid it out on the opposite side it'd be easier. But I can't make this cut starting into it where there's meat on both sides of it because the bandsaw is a 14-inch bandsaw and I'm not going to be able to bring this through. It's going to hit right here. So I have to start on the opposite end. And it's always hard to start on an edge like that. You've got to just allow the blade to cut as you start this. So here we go. I'm not going to bring my left hand up to it, I'm going to bring my left hand past. So you see I have a consistent edge back here. The line, the space between the line and my blade is consistent. The piece that I have cut off here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the screw out. I'm going to return that to the drawer labeled 1 1/4 inch screw. We are going to save all the screws that we use to hold this thing together because they're just temporary. But if we look at this back edge now, that's pretty good, right? It's a pretty good cut, but it's still not as good as I'd like it to be. So we're going to bring it over to the jointer. Now my grain goes off in this manner. So I want my blades to turn this way into it. So I'm going to start with the bottom of my legs facing towards the cutter. And I'm going to turn my vacuum on. My cut, because I had a pretty straight cut on the bandsaw there, took 1 pass. Depending on how you do on the bandsaw there, it could take upwards of 3 passes to get this thing perfectly flat. But that's how I want it. The back edge now is the angle that's supposed to be, 82 degrees. At this point, I want to mark where all my rails are going to be hitting this. Okay, so we'll go back over to the tabletop and we'll mark that up. Reading our plans, we leave 9/16 on there that's going to be showing. So that's 9/16. The depth of all of our cuts here are going to be 9/16. Show you that on a project that's further along. This is 9/16, the cut that's in here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 locations where we have rails. So we have 4 places where we have to cut in at 9/16. Now, if you remember when we went over this, they're not all the same when we did our bill of materials. You remember that the front rails are 2 inches in width, and the back rails are 1 7/8 in width. So I'm going to get my square, and I'm going to draw this using a green marker so it's easier for you to see. I'm going to mark 2 inches, 1, 2, and I'll draw that line coming in. Okay, I'll draw this out this way too so it's easier for you to see. So this is what I'm cutting out for the legs. Right, so I want to cut this section out here. And that's going to be a depth of 9/16. We don't even have to draw that depth because we're going to set that depth with the height of our blade. So I'll draw that one. I'm going to draw this one as well. Or the back ones here I'll do. So this back one here is 1 7/8. So I'll hold my square up and I'll mark it at 1 7/8. Then I'll take a square in from the edge and I'll draw that. The back rail here sits 5 5/8 up from the back corner, and it says it on your plans. So I'll bring my square to it, and I will come up, I said again, 5 7/8. Sorry, 5 5/8. So that's the bottom of the rail, and the rail there is 1 7/8 wide again, so I'll mark that. And I'll draw these 2 lines. Again, I don't have to draw my depth because I'm going to set that later on, and I'll show you that. This depth here is 9/16. So I'm going to set my piece here and just mark 9/16. And then I'll draw this. We're going to hold this on a table saw like this. So our depth of cut will be 9/16. We're going to hold it on a table saw like this. This will be 9/16 and 9/16. However, with this one, when we hold it like this, our depth is going to be the width of the rail. So the depth is going to be 2 inches. I'm going to mark on my piece in the front here where I have a 90-degree angle, because that's the front edge here. That's the square side. I'm going to mark one line that's 9/16 up and one line that's 2 inches up, and those are going to be the lines that I use to set my blade. So I'm going to set this to 9/16. Then I'm going to mark that. And I'm going to set it to 2 inches. And I'm covering up the 2-inch mark and the 9/16 mark when I draw them because I'm drawing out the end of this. I'm using the end of that as a straight edge. Now I can go ahead and draw these lines all the way across. This line here is 2 inches. This line here is 9/16 of an inch. Those are my depths of the cutter, of the blade that I have to have. Okay? So I want to make these cuts in this at this stage. So next thing I want to show you is how to set the dado blades.